Yeah.
Hello, can I speak to Just Incredible?
Yeah, what's going on?
Hey, buddy, this is Felix, and of course my good buddy Austin here for the show for Pipebomb Radio tonight. Hopefully we didn't wake you up. I know it's, if I'm not mistaken, you're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, no, I set my alarm, but I got to be up in 5 hours for work, so let's not go all night, you know?
No, trust me, we will not take too much of your time.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you. And we'll just start off a couple of questions before we go into your career in wrestling. I am curious, how did you come about to create Pro Wrestling 101, which is your new YouTube show? What gave you the idea to want to do something like that?
I was recently I did a podcast with Colt Cabana, and you know, it just was very successful, and Colt kind of gave me the idea. He said, look, man, to stay relevant in the business these days, you know, you got to really use social media, and it's true. You know, if you're not on WWE TV or TNA TV, really, there's a whole bunch of fans out there that have never, you know, that have only heard of me. They've, you know, if they don't watch old ECW DVDs or, you know, some old WWE stuff, they'll never know who I am. So it's really up to me to stay relevant and keep myself out there. So
and it's
yeah.
Getting such positive feedback, because I've caught myself up and watched every episode up to this point, and looking over the comments, you've gotten some great response. And so I said, for the new up-and-comers who want to get somebody who's got a wealth of knowledge to give them a few pointers, it's definitely a great show to check out.
Yeah, and too, I wanted it to not just for the wrestlers, but for fans too. To kind of, you know, I know fans, some of them, the smarter fans, are into, you know, kind of what we're going, you know, our mindset and what we think of, and really, it's just meant for pro wrestling enthusiasts, you know, and also I'm gonna be adding some comic relief and some other kinds of stuff to the channel, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. I got a lot of good stuff on the way.
And you know, for people that haven't actually watched the show, Justin does not sugarcoat anything, and he tells you that right before each episode, and that's really great that you're telling it, you know, from the truth, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're at an age right now where we know, you know, it is what it is. It's entertainment, and you know, we just have fun with it.
Now, getting started in professional wrestling, I know you get asked this question, but I want to phrase it differently in the sense that when you grew up, obviously, did you start out being a wrestling fan like most? Did you get into wrestling at a young age? And if so,
yeah,
who was your hero?
I was a huge wrestling fan, you know, right around the time of Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, those kinds of guys, you know, the Four Horsemen. So, yeah, I was a big fan, and, you know, right out of high school, I got right into the business, and I was very lucky.
So who
I actually remember you saying something about you getting started when you were 19 and have been going ever since. And
I mean, you know, 20 years in the business. I'm 39 years old, and you know, I started when I was a kid, so it's been good to me, man. And
how did it come about that you were contacted or were able to start working with WWE?
Well, I just, you know, back then they used a lot of enhancement talent. Well, you know, a lot of people call jobbers, and really at the time, you know, I live in Connecticut. You know, they started a new show called Monday Night Raw that was being taped every Monday in Manhattan at a small venue called the Manhattan Center, and they needed guys every Monday, so they'd call me up, and, you know, I'd get a little side work with them, and, you know, they really liked what they saw, and fast forward to a year and a half later, you know, I got an offer to, you know, work with them full-time, and you know, that kind of where the Aldo thing started, and, you know, I went from there. I signed my first contract when I was 20 years old, so pretty amazing stuff, you know.
That had to have been pretty amazing at that young of age, that to start with arguably the biggest company. Well, at that time they were still competition, but, I mean, WWE was the only show, and is the only show still to this day, that people would want to be a part of. Back then they still have options to better themselves in, like, the other companies, which nowadays is where guys go for the independent circuits and so forth to help better themselves to hopefully one day make it to the WWE. But you made it at such a young age. I got to ask, how did it come about that you were they came up with the Aldo Montoya character?
The whole time, I guess. Vince had, if you recall, in '94, really business was bad in the U.S. for wrestling, especially WWE's numbers were down, and they were doing a lot of good business overseas. So the whole purpose to the Portuguese Man of War, was to really penetrate foreign markets. Portugal, of course, which is in Europe, and Brazil, which is in South America. So Brazil is a huge country. 75% of South America is Brazil, and they're a Portuguese-speaking country. So that was the intention, which never really came to fruition in that market. But that was the whole deal. And they found out I speak Portuguese, and it just went from there. Yeah, and I'm the real deal. So that's how it initially started. So I was also I was talented, but I was in the right place at the right time.
So did you enjoy Aldo Montoya being him?
I'm sorry?
Did you enjoy being Aldo Montoya the time that you were, with that?
What do you mean?
During that time of your character, did you enjoy working as Aldo Montoya?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, guys, a 20-year-old kid, I considered it, I was just trying to, I figured, I'd be like I'm a wrestling fan, so it was a masked wrestler character. The mask wasn't that great, but, it was what it was, and yeah, man. I mean, it got me my start in the business. I learned how to be a professional. I learned from the best in the world. I really got to groom myself, and I learned on the job. It was great. It was a great time in my life, and and I made money. It was amazing.
And getting to work, you came in, you were a part of a generation where respect and obviously thinking, was huge back then. Still is now, but I think it was much more then, where you kind of had to be, you if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I am, that you had to make sure you'd introduce yourself to the guys and thank them for the opportunities and so forth, and you got to work with a whole different class of guys back then. Like, have you ever worked with Randy Savage at that time?
I haven't, no. But it's true. It was still very much an old school business. Very hard to break into the wrestling business traditionally, not like it is today. And and the business has suffered. There was a lot of protocol. And they would test you. They would see if you had what it took in many ways as a man, if you had integrity, honesty, if you're a good person, and if you were a rat, almost like the mob, it's like, they really, it was a sacred thing, and it was the business was much better then, to be honest with you. There was just a certain level of respect, and you had to pay your dues, really, in the business to be accepted, and and earn your keep, and it just molded me into a gentleman in the business, to this day. I mean, 20 years in. I still shake everybody's hand. I still treat the young kids in this business with the respect that I want to be treated with, and it's a lesson that everybody should learn. It's just we should all be grateful to be able to do something like that we love in front of a big audience. So yeah, man, it's special and should never be treated kind of like passe or whatever.
And I know in one of your episodes you talked about the how did I phrase that? I believe you were talking. Oh my God! Oh yes, the building of the storylines. Now, a lot of the time back then they were allowed to kind of expand on it and take some time with it and work with it. Whereas today, a lot of the times, some would say maybe the storylines get rushed too quickly and they don't allow themselves to fully enjoy. Well, I don't know if I want to say enjoy it, but fully let the story unfold over time, where it's more rapid now. Do you think there might be a reason that it's hurting the business today?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that could be said in any aspect. It could be said for just telling a story in a match, because traditionally on Raw you got 2-3 minutes in there of action, where back then, even on Raw back then, you'd have much more time. Or you could even go back and say, look, traditionally, if you're having a feud with a guy, there used to be 4 pay-per-views a year. Now you have 1 every month, so storylines would move much slower. And you would get to build drama, and you'd finally have the big blow-off match 3 months down the line instead of 4 weeks pay-per-view to pay-per-view. So yeah, man, and back then, you would come into a territory, and you would work your way up, and and then if the babyface got an opportunity for a title or whatever, and then you'd kind of fall off and give somebody else a chance, but that would be a year's worth or 2 years worth of opportunity and storytelling. Where now you get one pay-per-view and maybe a match on Raw. It's just everything's just fast forward in this day and age, where you put a 10-minute video on YouTube and many people are telling you it's too long. 10 is just way shorter today. So yeah, everything is in light speed.
Austin, did you have a question? I'm sorry if I cut you off there.
Oh, no worries. I was going to say, who are you trained by? Like, if people don't know, who are you trained by?
Other Hearts in Calgary.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. I remember him talking about that, or at least reading a little bit up on that he definitely got the train in the dungeon.
And I mean, a great decision because again, it comes back to really, you learn your respect over there, and you have to work hard. I mean, I came in the first day of camp, there were 15 students, and at the end of the 2-month camp, there was only 2 of us, and I was one of the 2. So, they really ran you hard. They made you, a lot of working out, a lot of running, calisthenics, push-ups, squats, sit-ups. They really made sure you were an athlete. Today, I'm helping train some kids at a wrestling school in Connecticut. And, you get some good people, but, 9 times out of 10, you got people that are out of shape and that don't belong in the ring, and you have to handle them with kid gloves. It's like back then, man, they'd break you, and if you didn't come back, too bad. They wanted it. They wanted to see how far they could take you. You know what I mean? If you would handle it, almost to toughen you up because the business is tough. And today's, I say this and I get a lot of heat for it, but I go to a lot of right now. I make my living on the independent scene, which is a small miracle in itself, but I do manage to do that, and a lot of times I wonder, I'm like, where are, a lot of times a lot of indies don't draw, and I'm like, where are the real hardcore fans that used to be there? And I finally got my answer, and it's unfortunate. A lot of the fans that were the fans that are coming to the shows are now wrestlers and promoters and managers and referees. Now, what I mean by that, though, is those are still, not that, we're all fans deep down inside, but they're not really, they went to, they're kids that are paying their way through, paying promoters for spots. It's like the business has been bastardized. They're kids who still, they say they're wrestlers, but are still paying to go see WWE. You know what I mean? Where when you're in the business, you're in the business. When I was 19 years old, I was backstage, trying to hustle my way through. I was never there buying, sitting in front row. So that's the difference. This business never would allow stuff like that. And unfortunately, the independent scene, not all, but most, is flooded with guys with no credentials that are actually parts of the show, whereas these people should be paying to get into those shows. It's bastardized. Indie wrestling is glorified backyard wrestling a lot of times, and it's a shame, and it's hard to tell with one from the other. There are some real good promoters out there, but there's a lot of five and dime rinky-dink outlaw things that unfortunately fans go to one of those shows and they think that's what wrestling's all about, or indie wrestling. They'll never go. They'll just wait for WWE to come to town, and the business is really suffering because of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And you were during that era, of course, when the gimmicks were definitely huge back then. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I am, in 1997, you actually made the jump over to ECW. Do you feel that when you actually got into ECW, the real you more came out during those times? Like it was really you. Not saying that, obviously Aldo is a character, but
sure.
Do you feel that as the character of Just Incredible, it was more you than during your time in the early years of the WWE?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Just Incredible is me on steroids, But yeah, I mean, Paul allowed me to, and when I met that edited character, I was very, I'm not a loud guy or a mean guy, but Paul allowed me to find who I was as a character, and mash up my personality with, what I feel I could have accomplished in the ring. I took a little bit of Razor Ramon, a little Ric Flair, a little Shawn Michaels, and mixed it into who I felt I could be, larger than life. And so, yeah, it gave me great creative freedom, and it was very rewarding, and some of the, it was probably the best 3.5 years creatively I've had in my entire career, which is, it's a shame that, unfortunately, today there's no place where I can get those kinds of creative, that's what I'm really missing, I don't miss, it's, for me at this point in my career, it's not about the money, although it would be nice. It's more about, at 39 years old, I'm very healthy at this point, 9 months clean and sober, drug-free, alcohol-free. Thanks, man. I'm in great shape, so I just feel that, with the knowledge I have and the abilities that I still possess, I mean, I'm as sharp as a whip right now, and I can do what I could, I can do any of the things I was doing 10 years ago. I just want that opportunity, and unfortunately, with so few companies offering anything right now, and it's just a very tight thing, and there's nowhere to get those, to go out and apply your craft, put it that way. So it's a little frustrating, and you just do the best you can, and hope in time things work out, because my clock's ticking. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to be doing it at a very late age. I'm in the twilight of my career. I realize I have 4 or 5 years tops. 44 sounds like a good age. I mean, I know there's guys a lot older than that doing it, but to do, I don't, if it's getting painful to watch and painful to do, I don't want to do it. So, I'm giving myself a small window to do something, in this business again. And, a lot of people say, well, that might not happen, but I'm willing to, go against the odds. I wasn't, I was never supposed to be in the WWE or be world champion to begin with, and I defied those odds. So we'll see what happens.
And at this point, you actually, during your time in ECW, you actually got to work with Lance Storm, a fellow,
yes.
Another person who actually got to train in the dungeon. How would you describe your time with him? If you could sum it up in one word, or if you can't do just one, how would you describe your time working with Lance? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe also with Don Marie as your manager. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I did. It was just amazing. It was so natural. It was the easiest work I'd ever done as far as, in wrestling, as far as, it was just effortless, planning our matches, wrestling our matches, completely effortless in the ring. It was just, we were having such a good time. A lot of the matches we were doing were all improv, too, because Lance and I just clicked. I mean, it was how wrestling is supposed to be. It was like magic almost, It was so effortless. I mean, we were working hard, but, the creativity, the flow, he knew what I was thinking. I knew what he was thinking. The communication. It was brilliant. I loved it. It was awesome.
And I really believe deep down Lance doesn't get the true recognition he really does deserve, because he really was a great performer in the ring. Still is. I mean, he still wrestles from time to time, not as much as he used to, but back then, he was definitely one of the more underrated stars back then. I feel like he should have been recognized for a lot more, because I feel like he gave a lot. He gave a lot of it to the fans, and they appreciate him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I think Lance is happy with that. I really do. I think he likes doing. I think I just heard his interview he did with Steve Austin, and he really. He doesn't mind being unutilized. Being underutilized. So it's all. I think he's quite happy with it.
And after your time in ECW, when it ended, you moved back to the WWE, and you got to actually work. Although it was brief, this is kind of a two-part question. It was brief as far as your time with the Alliance, but you also had the opportunity to work with Sean Waltman and I guess at that time I think he was known as A-Train, Albert, however you want to call him, Tensai, whatever. As far as the X Factor group, do you feel like it could have gone further than it did, or do you feel like it ran its course? Also, do you feel the alliance could have run a lot better?
I think the alliance could have been a lot better. I think X Factor could have been way better. Sean and I, to this day, we talk about it, and it's a shame they didn't go further. But Sean was having some contract disputes and some personal stuff going on at that time, so I think that had a lot to do with the stuff that went down. So that's one thing. Sometimes in wrestling, when you're in a tag team, you get things happen that doesn't necessarily involve you that affects you. So I think in that situation, that was one of the things that happened. But it was it was an interesting experience. I was there for 2.5 years, and hey, it is what it is.
With Sean, he actually, well, I'm not sure if he still does this. I've heard periodically. I think he's gone down to the WWE training facility to check, to watch some of the new talent, if the opportunity ever arose. Because honestly, I think you'd offer a great deal to the new generation today. As far as showing them, maybe ring psychology, talking to them about that, giving them some advice, helping them in the ring, and so forth. If WWE had ever approached you or would ever approach you to do something like that, to be a trainer, would that be something that you'd be interested in, maybe working in their new performance, not Tampa, Orlando, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That'd always be something to be interested in. I've actually thought about that. But right now, I'm still, I know if I were to return in WWE, it would be as a utility guy. It wouldn't necessarily, I understand that, I don't know if they're into pushing 39-year-old wrestlers at this point. See William Regal, who's one of the most talented guys in the world, and can still wrestle. Yeah, and can still wrestle. So, but if it meant going on the road and helping younger talent, putting them that way, or even going down in NXT and that level. So, or just straight up at the school, whatever it may be. I just want to be involved in the business. Like I said, I have a short window of opportunity, and I have clear goals for what I want to do in my future outside of the business when I'm done with its business. So, it'd be really interesting, and I'd certainly do it, of course.
That's awesome. I think that WWE would benefit so much to have somebody who has the knowledge and a lot to offer the new generation today. A lot of the new younger guys to get an understanding of what it was like. I mean, obviously you back then and now is so much difference. There's so many differences in so many different ways. What would you say? Do you feel like, were some of the biggest differences between, with the exception of the obvious, do you think that some of the storylines or even some of the issues or matches back then would have worked today in today's as far as stories or performers back then?
Yeah. Absolutely. Look, bottom line is, storytelling is storytelling, and fans could still watch matches from that era and be excited. Guys could still watch a guy like Steve Austin, and he was a hell of a worker. People, they remember the beer and the stunners, but Steve could go. Especially, if you look back, man, at some of the matches he had, even when he was tag teaming with Brian Pillman in WCW, Steve Austin was a hell of a worker. So I think anytime you could tell a compelling story in the ring, regardless of style. It doesn't matter. So yeah, absolutely, man. Things are just a little bit. What I just dislike the pace sometimes, and I was always criticized for moving too fast. But I just feel like the drama is missing from a lot of the matches. The real built-up drama that you only get once a year. It's like, for some reason, only around WrestleMania time you get those long, dramatic matches where people actually sell. It's like, why can't we have that a little more often? It's like, really, guys. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but hey, look, it's the way it is, and you have to adapt. The strikes have been, like now it's more. I know a lot of guys try to do some, different kinds of, they call it, strikes and knees and stuff, and it's just a little more fast-paced. But really, wrestling is wrestling, and it's nothing different to adapt. And I think styles can mesh well together. And when I wrestle younger guys, last week I wrestled a kid, 22 years old. You just say, look, kid, this is what I do. What do you do? And let's put it together. And that's really how you go about it. And you can have success with anybody at any time period with any style.
That's very well said. I would have to say, you'd definitely be a good fit for a commentator as well, color commentator like maybe King or JBL, to share some of your knowledge with the fans of today as well. That would be a good. I think that you'd be a good fit for that as well. I mean, you have a lot to offer still, and I think that any company would definitely benefit from having somebody with as much knowledge as you do have in the company, in the business. Excuse me. But in between the different eras that you worked, who would you say would be maybe some of your favorites to have had matches with, to work with from each generation? I mean, obviously the new generation from the time that you went in there, and then moving on to ECW, and then of course back to WWE. Do you, off the top of your head, do you remember some of your favorite matches that you still think about and still remember to this day? God, I mean, I've wrestled.
And wrestled from any generation would be Flair and Hogan. I mean, I've worked with Rock, I've worked with Cena. It was CM Punk's first match. So, and I worked with Daniel Bryan when he was in TWA in Texas in 1999. So I've had everybody, man. So it's the only person I would just love to get in the ring with Flair. I think that would be awesome, just because it's Flair. But that's pretty much it, man. That's pretty much it.
If you had the opportunity to have had a manager, taken besides of course Don, who was your manager as well, if you had the opportunity to work with manager, whether it be up today or yesteryear, who would you have liked to have had the opportunity to have as your manager?
Bobby Heenan. He was just amazing. He took the best bumps ever, and he was just so great. He was one of the funniest guys in the business, just so talented. So much respect for that man, certainly Bobby Heenan,
And, of course, if you had to choose it today, I'm sure you probably will, and probably will forever be known as a Paul Heyman guy as well, I'm sure. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Now, going into SummerSlam this weekend, obviously the two top card main events for the show, who are you going for? Who would you like to see come out of there as winning those matches? As far as Cena and Daniel and Punk and Brock, who would you like to see come out of those two matches the winners?
Well, I think Randy Orton's going to come out the winner in the Cena match, and I think Brock's going to win. I just don't see a monster like Brock putting over CM Punk. It looks kind of weird to me, and I'm a small guy too, so I'm nothing against small guys, but Brock's just such a monster. I mean, to be around him in person is something else. I mean, he's just ridiculous, and he's such an athlete. It's just, Brock's scary. He hurts you when you don't want to hurt. He hurts you when he doesn't want to hurt you. Put it that way. I've been in the ring with him. He's scary. So, I see that direction happening.
Now, during the Attitude Era, you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were actually still in the ECW at that time. Were you guys still watching the other shows like Nitro and? Oh
yeah, sure. I would. I mean, man, it was an exciting time, man. I mean, you'd watch each other's shows. We would watch both. ECW wasn't on Mondays, so we would watch Nitro and Raw, and you'd know who was showing up on whose show, and really the internet. Even though the .coms had taken place, ECWWrestling.com and stuff like that was already live, but YouTube hadn't been invented yet, and social media was nothing like it. MySpace came on years later, but nothing like it is today. So I think really, the stooging off of certain things and the information being so free really ruined it for the fans, because we were all tuning in to see who was coming through that, through the thing there, the entrance, and you didn't know who was coming where, and it was just so exciting, and we watched intently, man. And it's a shame that, unfortunately, that excitement will never really be like that again because of this age of, everything at your fingertips. Well, look, technology is wonderful, but for something like pro wrestling, where it's scripted entertainment, it mattered when, the excitement was you didn't know, you kind of know now. So you really have the choice to say, I'll TiVo it or whatever, or I'll watch it, somewhere else, or I'll catch the highlight on YouTube or whatever, however you're getting your media today. So, it's changed the scape forever, but, man, it was a hell of a time.
So do you keep up with the current stuff that's happening in WWE?
Oh, I know everything.
You do?
I know everything. Yes.
And another thing I was going to say, you were talking about pro wrestling schools. Like anybody can start one. But is there one? If you name a few off the top of your head, the more prestigious schools in the world, which ones would you say?
Right now, not just because he's my friend, but Lance's, the Storm Wrestling Academy is just doing great work. I really am a fan of. He modeled it right after the way the Hearts did it, and a lot of wrestling schools don't do it this way. And I'm actually working with a wrestling school called RWE in Connecticut, and I've told them, look, Lance and the Hearts did it this way for a reason. You get a start date with X amount of students, whoever signs up by that date. You run it for 2 months. Everybody starts on the same page, learns like a school almost, the same curriculum, and then, boom, 2 months, you're done. That's how long it took for everybody going through the Hearts to get trained. But it was a 5-day-a-week, rigorous 2-3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 months. A lot of times in a lot of schools don't do it like that. They'll have kids sign up, and then, a month later you'll get a handful of other kids. So really you're getting a hodgepodge of, kids are learning at different rates, and then things get lost in the mix, and, it's kind of, it's all over the place, and there's no real organization, and really the kids are suffering, because they're not getting everything in a structured way. Lance really gives everything, from the very first, taking a bump to, technical mat wrestling to, running the ropes to, high spots to whatever, and it's all done sequential. So, I think a lot of schools missed the boat on that, and it's a battle I've tried to have where, promoters have, their reasons, of course, and a lot of them being financial, but they don't do it that way. So, it's too bad, but if I were to recommend anybody, I'd say take the trip to Calgary.
And, with like the Hard Dungeon, it's like an equation that makes the best wrestlers, because the people that went in and actually didn't stop were really successful. And if you do that now, like with your school in Connecticut and with Lance's, then there's going to be a lot of people that are successful. And when you go to, like what I heard on Pro Wrestling 101, you were saying how if you go to a promoter and you give them with the name of your wrestling school you trained at, that'll look really good on your part.
Oh, absolutely. Look, it matters who you were trained by, and that certainly opened up some doors. Look, the first time I made my introduction to anybody in the World Wrestling Federation at the time, I went backstage to a show in Connecticut, and I introduced myself to Tony Gurria and Rene Goulet, who were the agents at the time, and I said, look, sir, I'm PJ, I was trained by the Hearts in Calgary. Right away, they're like, oh, really? Great, walk right in. Right there, that grabbed their attention, because they know if I'm throwing around their name, you can't bullshit or something like that. So they take you. They know you were broken in properly. They know you're not some fly-by-night rinky-dink jabroni. They know that if you made it through, you know what I'm saying, you earned your stripes kind of a thing. And, yeah, it certainly matters. So people should really take that into consideration who they get trained by because, you know, you're getting trained by JoJo Starbuck down in Tennessee. It's a big difference than getting trained by the Hart Brothers, you know.
You know, that it was kind of, I understand where Austin's question was going because he's actually a young man who's actually going and wanting to pursue the dream when once he is able to. I mean, he's still very young. He's actually going to be 17 himself. And he's definitely been from the people we've spoken to taken in a lot of the advice, and as far as I think that's where he was going because he wanted to pick your brain as far as schools as well because he wants to come into it. And if you had advice to give him as far as what would be some of the advice you'd want to give, obviously besides the school, if you wanted to get into today.
Just be very, very, you know, eyes open, mouth shut. Take all the knowledge in the world in, and you know, be very, very aware. There's a lot of shady people out there too, and it's a very rough business, man. You know, I came into the world of wrestling very naive, not knowing a lot about a lot of things in life, and unfortunately, I found out a lot of them the hard way. So just be very aware. You know, be ready to work your ass off. Blood, sweat, and tears, man. You know, you get ready to be the, you know, starving artist. I starved up there for many months, and then, you know, stealing $2 worth of, you know, some, you know, quarters from the change jar of the buddy's house I was staying so I can get a gallon of milk, and that's all the sustenance I'd have for the day. You know, because I was too embarrassed to, you know, call home and have them wire me money because I wanted to make them, you know, pretend, you know, let them know that I, you know, not let them know that I was hurting. So, you know, get ready to starve and not make money and, you know, travel thousands of miles for nothing, you know, for a pat on the back, you know. But, you know, if you put your time in and do it the right way, it can also be very rewarding. So, you know, go for it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because with stuff like Pro Wrestling 101, when that came on, I really appreciated what you did with that because with people like me that really want to learn as much as they can, you have no idea how much I appreciate that. I mean, with your
well, I tell you, I'm really proud of the series, and I've heard nothing. You know, from the people that watch it, I'll tell you, I get a lot of positive feedback. You know, I'm just, you know, a little disappointed at, you know, the numbers aren't what I thought they would be. So, you know, I've been hitting every radio show, every, you know, gimmick I can find to promote it. So, you know, guys, if you're into it out there, or any fans that are listening, you know, please share it with others because it's something I certainly have a passion for and want to continue to do and provide as a service, really, to give back. So, you know, guys, if you're into it, share it, tell your friends, and I just want as many people to see it as possible. So, you know.
I know that for a lot of the other places that you've gotten to talk to, the radio shows, they've gone on and actually promoted it on their actual website. And Austin and I actually got to talking, and we actually would like to throw our name into the hat and, with your permission, post
please
videos on our website.
Yeah, please. That would be amazing if you could. Yeah, man. I would be honored if you would. It'd be great.
Trust me, the honor is all with us, man. We have the utmost respect for what you've done and what you're doing now for the new generation. You know, people need to take a listen and watch.
Thank you, man.
No problem. I only have two more questions, and my first one will actually be more of a name association from the years that you've got, the different generations. If I throw out a name, the first thought comes to mind about that person. And it doesn't have to be good or bad. I'm not saying it to bash anybody in general. It just,
no, I hear you.
You've gotten to work with so many greats. I would definitely love to hear what you thought about your time working with them. Like, for instance, I'll throw out, you know, the man himself, Vince McMahon.
Genius.
It said a lot, and you can't argue that. But
no, I mean it's all there, you know.
Randy Savage.
Charismatic.
I'm not sure, you said you didn't actually get to work with him, but I'm sure you chatted with
him. I've spent time with Randy. Yeah, he's a very charismatic guy. Very charismatic.
Hulk Hogan.
Pro wrestling.
Triple H.
cerebral in every sense. That's shoot.
That's actually a good way to look at it. The Undertaker.
Class.
Dixie Carter.
I could get in trouble here.
No, you know what? We'll skip that one. How about we'll go with Jeff Jarrett, because I believe you actually did get to work with him a little bit, didn't you?
Yes. Jeff, old school veteran.
And, of course, last but definitely not least, I would have to say the Hart family. I include everybody. No, nobody's taken out of that one. You got to work with a lot of the Harts, so I.
Yeah. Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. How about that?
Said it better myself. And my last question, of course, is if at this point, if you had a generation that you would have liked to have had to work, because you worked obviously in the early '90s, do you feel that you would have been able to work a lot better, say in the '70s or even the '80s?
Oh no, I was fine just where I was, man. It was perfect. Wouldn't change a thing.
And Austin, I'm going to turn it over to you, buddy. Ask away if you have any more questions.
Well, I just wanted to say a bunch of respect for all you do. Definitely have a whole lot of respect for Pro Wrestling 101, what you're doing, and I know tons of other people do too. And just keep on posting those videos, because I'm really, really interested in what you have to say. Definitely.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for everything, and thank you for having me tonight. And also, man, go ahead.
One last thing, real quick. I apologize. I know I didn't want to keep you too long because I know it's getting late. Would you be okay with maybe taking one call from a fan?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay, we'll do that right now. Hello, you're on the air with Just Incredible. Did you have a question for him?
Yeah, I just want to say it's an honor for leading the younger generation and giving us the path to actually inspire us with all of your talent and everything you've been through with your story. I mean, it's phenomenal. So I want to say thank you so much.
Oh, man, thanks, man. That means a lot to me, man. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Jagger. Thanks for calling in, bud.
Not a problem. Great show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome.
All righty. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I know it's getting real late in your area. We don't want you to stay up too late. On behalf of Austin, we have to say thank you so much, and we will definitely keep promoting your web series on our website and help continue to get the word out there, help people to tune in. We thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to even join us tonight and talk about it. Have you ever actually thought about doing a podcast yourself? I know it seems like that's the thing to do these days.
It's funny you say that, because I have one coming up with InsideTheRopes.uk very, very soon. They're a group based out of London that do very big wrestlers. Razor Dunham and other big stars. So I will have my own show very soon with those guys. So yeah, I'll probably be on promoting that soon with you guys.
Hey, yeah, no doubt. Best wishes for that, because I think that's the thing that people, the older generation, are definitely taking part in and enjoying doing, is giving back to those today and just sharing their knowledge. But
definitely, man.
I look forward to it.
Right,
I definitely follow Inside the Ropes. And,
cool. Yeah, definitely, man.
I wish you the best, and hopefully sometime in the very near future we could love to have you come back.
Yeah, keep in touch, and also for everybody out there, my Twitter handle is @PJPolacco, and my website is thejusticredible.com. It has all my information, T-shirts, from ProWrestlingTees.com/JustIncredible, booking information.
I almost forgot to tell you to do that.
Everything. Now, it's all on the website. Actually, DDP Yoga's web guy does my website as well, so I got a wonderful site, so check it out, thejusticredible.com. It has absolutely everything. So hit that up, hit Pro Wrestling 101 up, and thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Great night.
Not a problem. Thank you. Have a great night, too.